Hi, it's Elise Lunan, host of Pulling the Thread. And today, my guest is psychiatrist Amir Levine. We're talking about attachment styles. Amir Levine is a psychiatrist, a neuroscientist, an associate professor of clinical psychiatry at Columbia University, and the co-author of the mega bestseller Attached. I just read and loved his new book, which is called Secure: The Revolutionary Guide to Creating a Secure Life. Today, we review the four attachment styles and the myths surrounding them. Amir explains how each of us, regardless of our starting point, can flex and become more secure in our relationships. He takes us through his tools for those of us who tend to be more anxious and his strategies for those of us who tend to be more avoidant. He explains why certain seemingly insignificant minor interactions, which he calls SIMs, have an outsized effect on our brains and our intimate relationships. We talk about a lot of psychological phenomenon that I think will resonate with many of you, from attachment gaslighting to something called the protest regret cycle. Amir offers some advice for turning down the volume on the insecure attachments in your life and for finding what he calls the hidden sparks of talent in our partners and in ourselves. This conversation was such a delightful one. Let's get to it now. Congratulations. And I love the premise of this book, and the spirit in which it's offered, which is once we have an understanding of attachment, how do we become more secure? And as a testament to this book, I work out with a handful of friends a few times a week, and I wasn't diagnosing them, but we were talking about one is avoidant and one is anxious. And I was like, for you two to like, you really need some, I was explaining essentially the book. And I think that's a sign that this book also will have legs as it goes out into the world. So did Attach, like it didn't launch as a bestseller. How many copies have you sold? Millions?
Oh yeah, it's like more than 3 million copies.
Isn't that crazy? That is
That's
so
insane, right?
edge case and books. And it's just done it slowly over time.
Yeah, and it's so I think there was a moment, I'm a scientist, so there was a moment that I saw the trend and
Yeah.
I wrote a whole thing to the publisher. It's like, you don't know what you have in your hands. This actually can sell a lot more. It speaks to people. And then I created like this graph where I extrapolated, I did an analysis based on the data where it could go based on, because it's an algorithmic thing.
Yeah.
So I did all the statistical analyses. That's the scientist nerdy stuff in me. And then it actually convinced them. So they got behind it a little bit and tried to push it a little bit further. That was like, I don't know, like 7 years in after it's been published.
Wild.
So, and then they improved the SEO stuff, and then that helped a lot. So it's not like I try to push it along the way, and things that you do can help it, but definitely there's something there. Look, the fact that it was translated to Spanish, like there's something there that spoke to some people. And I think this whole idea of attachment styles is just like such a powerful, something that comes from research. And before these attachment styles, before we translated it into something that people can use in everyday life. It was just buried in all these lingo, scientific lingo. And it was a challenge to take it and create it into something that people can use. And I think in this book, I go a step further because I, I don't even, I have to tell you, now I think about attachment styles as a starting point, not really a diagnosis. And also in this book, I talk about how it can change from relationship to relationship, and how it's not set in stone, and how it doesn't necessarily come from childhood. All these different myths that people have about it, I really try to append that in this book and really give a much more up-to-date information. Attachment styles are really your starting point, and you can get so much further if you learn if you learn the sort of the brain logic of attachment. You can really open it up and change a lot. So it was important for me to sort of get this message out. Like, here's
Yeah.
what you can do to change.
Yeah. I want to go into all of that, including this idea of it being a starting block or a way that maybe you are designed or patterned rather than
Yes,
a foregone
exactly.
conclusion that's your parents' fault. Because I found that particularly relieving. I am secure anxious, and I'm married to someone who
Okay.
is secure avoidant. And so even
That sounds so similar.
yeah, you're probably the same. And it's
Yes.
funny, we saw very occasionally, we haven't been in years, but and I've talked about this on the podcast, but many years ago we went to see this marriage therapist here, Stan Tatkin, who uses a
Oh yeah,
version of
yeah,
attachment theory.
yeah.
Yeah, and he trains therapists. He's amazing, is sort of a legend, and you go in and you boot camp with him, and he puts you on tape and he puts you into conflict. And the whole thing is like, the content is boring. I do not care we're not here to litigate rights and wrongs. If you want to have a successful partnership, you need to know the animal that you're with. And it was so helpful and revelatory that we don't need a recurrent therapist to process what's happening between us, because I know his patterns and he understands mine. And that's why I think your book is such a gift, because even reading it, I was like, I need to remind Rob, as an avoidant, how to manage me when I go into anxiety so that I don't make his avoidance worse and he doesn't make my anxiety worse. So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Um, let's start with sort of the three, I mean, I guess there are four: secure. And your point is like, the more secure we can all be, the more we can help modulate each other. And there are ways within that, our world
Yeah, because
to,
secures are so good at it. Yes.
yes, exactly. And that you can, let's start with the four
Attachment
types.
styles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we can start with the starting point because, and so there are four attachment styles, and it's called the anxious, avoidant, secure, and fearful avoidant. So there are three insecure ones: anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant, and one secure one. So you can even divide it into insecure and secure, which sometimes I find even like really helpful. And it all has to do with how comfortable we feel with intimacy and closeness, but also how sensitive of a
Wait, will
radar
you
we
stop
have.
for 1 second? You cut out there at the very beginning, and I don't know if it's recording locally, but you're back. You're perfect. But will you just start at the beginning of defining
Yes,
them? I
of
just, as
course.
I was like, I know what you're talking about, but I want to make sure it's captured.
Yeah. So start
Yep.
where? Oh, you're going to just
Just
start
like tell
again.
me the four types. Start it
Yes.
there.
So there are four attachment styles: anxious, avoidant, fearful, avoidant, and secure. And you can sometimes even lump all of them to an insecure and secure attachment styles. And sometimes it's helpful to do that because a lot of the tools in the book that I bring to help people with insecure attachment styles, they go across, they really cover, they're good for everyone. But it all has to do with how comfortable we feel with intimacy and closeness, but also how sensitive of a radar do we have to potential danger in a relationship. And danger in a relationship, from an attachment perspective, is something very, very specific. We constantly monitor, we do it without even knowing it. We constantly monitor for the availability of our loved ones or the people that we're close with. And if we feel that there's some sort of disruption in that availability, it will set up the alarm. So, for example, even as we're sitting now, you kind of have an idea where your loved ones are. You mentioned Rob. You probably kind of have an idea where he is, and that he's pretty much okay. But if I told you, God forbid, and I even hate doing it, that like there was a terrible earthquake or something bad happened, you wouldn't be able to continue this conversation. You'd have to stop and you'd have to reach out and make sure that he's okay. And then you can come back. We can continue, albeit a little bit on edge, and we can continue it. So it shows you we have this radar. They're constantly surveilling for that our loved ones and kind of like feels them out, knows that they're out there because fundamentally that's how we feel safe in the world. So to make a long story short, people who have an anxious attachment style love to be close, but they also have this very, very sensitive radar for potential threat in the relationship. People with avoidant attachment style, they also want to be in a relationship because we're a social species. We all need relationships. No one can do without it. But once they get into a relationship, something funny happens. They don't feel too comfortable with too much closeness. It's like, oh, okay, I want you, but I want you there, not here. And
Yes.
then people who are fearful, avoidant have a mixture of both. They both, it's almost like with one hand they say come forward, and in the other hand they say stay back, stay back. And it introduces a lot of conflict, inner conflict also, and outer conflict. And the secures of this world are people who love closeness and intimacy, just like the anxious, but they don't have a very sensitive radar. So everything goes over their head. Uh, they're easy to get along with. They don't really get upset very easily. And because they have this calm demeanor, they can really help people in relationships calm down very quickly. They're usually the first ones to apologize. It's just like they're just very, very, very good in relationships. I've really come to fall in love with the secures of this world in the process of this whole journey of me becoming like this attachment expert.
Yeah. Well, we all want secures in our life to modulate our nervous systems and keep us calm, right?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the that's really I'm glad you mentioned that because if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective and from a psychological perspective, this is the true function of a relationship, and secure relationships excel in it. Really, because we're social species, the main way for us to regulate our affect, which is kind of like calm ourselves down, is through other people. And you can think if like something really bad happens to you, we have an attachment hierarchy in our head. We know exactly who's to be. I know exactly who's number one that I'm going to go to, who's number two, who's number three, and I'm sure you do too. Um, and when we're securely attached to them, sometimes it's just a hug or a single word. Sometimes it's just a hug or a single word that will make us feel better immediately. There's just like, there's no Xanax or Klonopin in the world that gets even close to that effect because we're a social species.
Yeah. And I feel like right now, I don't want to drag us into culture, but there's so much happening too that as if you're wired for anxiety, being in the presence of other people who are also sort of hyperventilating about what's happening can be not always productive. Similarly, like you don't want to feel abandoned by avoidant people and you don't want to feel gaslit. We'll go into all of that. Um, but first, I thought just to go into sort of the biology that you pull into it, but that these are gifts. It feels like the fearful avoidant one. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's where often like familial trauma patterns and whatnot, and just sort of disordered relating shows up.
Right.
Whereas for the other two, it's not necessarily poor parenting or a misalignment. It's actually maybe a superpower in the same way that being secure is sounds really nice. Sounds delicious.
It is.
Um,
It's true, but you've really, this is one of the most important things that I wanted to convey in this book,
yeah.
um, is to really dispel this myth that's so common now. You can hear it so much on social media that it's something that you need to heal,
Yeah.
where in fact, it really is again, from an evolutionary perspective, it is very, very valuable that we'll have different segments of the population respond differently to different scenarios. So, what really happens is that people with an anxious attachment style, when you review the literature, and even the research literature itself is a little bit biased, but when you actually look at it from my perspective, which is like a therapist perspective, a secure therapist perspective, like I really discovered that they had this amazing ability not just to identify danger, but also to just really read social cues better than anyone else and faster than anyone else. And I even gave that example in the book about this woman who had an adopted child, and it actually gives
Yes.
me goosebumps whenever
Amazing
I talk
story.
about it.
Yeah.
That she's there with her daughter in the first day of school, and all of a sudden, her daughter meets a new girl, and they start playing together. Uh, and then she stops and she's like, "Oh my God, this girl, this other girl, she's my daughter's sister. I'm convinced of it. I see they don't look exactly the same, but the way they act, their facial expressions, they were sisters." And she turns to others and is like, "What are you talking about?" Like no one believes her, but she doesn't really give up. And eventually, like lo and behold, they are sister, and they're still in touch
Amazing.
till this day. She found her daughter's sister. So you see, it's not only danger that people can identify if you have those amazing superpowers. And it really plays out in so many things in our world, like in negotiations at work, how we parent, how we befriend. It's that extra sensitivity, but that sensitivity comes with a price.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love the study that you cite where there's a smoking computer and the anxious those who are anxious are the first ones to notice that it's smoking and the avoidant ones are the first to leave the room, which is
yes,
perfect, right? It's like in that moment,
perfect.
like in an emergency, my husband is spectacular. Um
Yeah.
he's just like
They're just like,
he
okay, what do we need to do? Like, this
yes.
is, they're like, oh, here, honey, I have to ask you, what should we do? Should we do this? Should we do that? It's like, no,
No.
I'm going to do this. You follow.
Yeah, he's like, you are doing that. You get in the car, you take the boys. Da, 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 da. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get this neighbor. Go. I'm like, he's like monitoring everything. It's amazing. It's very,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. He
yeah,
is the first to
yeah.
leave. He doesn't leave us behind, but he is the first to leave when he sees the
Right,
smoking
exactly. And you
computer.
follow, and he doesn't need
Yes.
a lot of reassurance or like, oh, what are we going to do? It's just like, no, action mode. I
No.
think that study is brilliant just because it really shows like that superpower thing. And the person is such a brilliant study. And it really drives such an important message home. I think definitely you can see the advantage from an evolutionary perspective to have these canaries in the coal mine that can
Yeah.
identify, oh, a little bit of smoke and then let everybody else know. To have the people sort of rush out first is like, and then the rest follows. But evolution doesn't really care about our personal well-being. So evolution really cares about the progression, sort of to make sure to continue the continuation of the species. It sees us as a vehicle of genetic transfer, but I care about our well-being. So I think the research overwhelmingly shows, and that's what I talk about also in Secure in this new book, that people who are secure, the benefits are really far and wide, not just in relationships, also for us ourselves, for how we see ourselves, how we experience ourselves. And so I really thought really long and hard, how can I help people uh, live with that biology that they've brought with them, but still become more secure? And the science really shows that you can become
Yeah.
more secure.
Yeah. And that this idea of sort of the orchid dandelion, if the anxious attached has this superpower but is an orchid, how do you um, create an environment in which you feel safe and secure enough to be your glorious orchid self and be, I would, when I worked in a more corporate culture, I was like known as the secret shaman because I just knew what was going to happen. It was like my own psychic intuitive power, particularly in how dynamics would play out between people or when something was
You
wrong.
see? Yeah,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. And it's not always great because sometimes you get blamed for what happens just for anticipating that it's going to happen. And I'm like, I'm not that powerful. I'm pretty powerful, but I'm not that powerful. But yeah, I mean, it's like this ability to discern, intuit, read people, manage energy is one of my sort of like bread and butter traits. It's gotten me very far. So let's
Very
talk a
far,
bit
I'm
about,
sure.
yeah, like because the two things that you outline, I want to talk to you about this whole idea of SIMIs and CARP, but the gaslighting and then that dynamic of the
The protest,
backlash.
the protest
Yes.
regret cycle. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Oh my God. I was like, you are screaming at me on the page. So can we talk about that? Because, or maybe before we get into that, should we talk about how the ultimate goal is if you're an anxious person to create more security in your relationships, and if you're an avoidant person to understand that other people need more security and to sort of like do the bare minimum to create that standard, even if you're like, I don't need this and I don't understand why you need this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like basic relationship hygiene that I think goes over
It
the
just goes over
heads
their
of the
head. They don't
avoidants.
realize it even.
Yeah.
People
My
often,
husband is like up in the carport all the time. I get it. I love it. He knows he has to come and like see me occasionally, but he would rather live in a different house.
I love that. That's so funny. But you see, the thing is, once you know that, like he
Yeah.
told you, you have to understand the animal that he is. And I love that.
It's
It's not
not
like you have to
personal.
understand his biology.
Yeah.
No.
No.
And in a way, it gives you also space. So the thing is, the whole idea is to understand that once our attachment system is not activated, so that good relationships are not really about constantly talking or being attached at the hip. That's not the attachment logic. The attachment logic is that, again, it's just a way for us to feel safe. So what it wants is for the relationship, we know where you are, and now we can forget about you. I mean, we still kind of like I told you, the surveillance, forget about you, and we can engage in the world.
Yeah.
And you can see it so clearly with kids. You bring them like into a room full of toys, and it's like, oh, they start pointing and wanting to play with the toys. And every once in a while, they'll look to see if the mom is there or their caregiver is there. But they're not like constantly where she is or where they are. But if they leave the room and they leave them, they drop the toys. They don't want to play with anything. You'll try to give them a toy. They'll throw it in your face. They're crying. It's like you ruin it for them. So as an adults, we don't really play with toys like that anymore, but we have the same neurocircuitry, we have the same biology. So really secure attachment, secure relationships, and that's what a lot of people don't really understand. They're there to, they need to be in the background. They need to be boring. So boring from the sense that they don't activate us, so we can engage in our work, in our career, in parenting, in having friends, in having hobbies, all of these different things. It's sort of like similar to playing as kids. So the idea is to keep that for anxious and for avoidance, for all of us, the secure secret that I really try to untangle in the book and show you how to get to that secret is to find a way to make those relationships in the background and not sort of like blare, like get the alarm going off like constantly. Who can work like that? Imagine if you were in a home where whenever, like every move you'll make, the alarm will go off. You can't
Yeah.
live like it's not. And not only you can live like that, now we have the science to also show how bad it is for your health and longevity, not just psychologically.
Yeah, 100%. So to
Yeah.
that end, sort of using my own marriage as an example, um, I'm not worried. I don't have any anxiety that my husband is sort of plotting leaving our partnership or and he gives me a ton of space, which I appreciate to go and do my work. And he knows that he needs to like send a text every 5 hours, just a bat signal, like, hi, that's it. We don't have
Yeah.
to, I'm
Yeah,
not,
it's enough.
I know whenever I call him, he's like, what? Like, why are you calling me? Um, but that's enough for me to not feel freaked out or at risk. And
Right.
it works really well.
Right. So what you're describing, like, it's like, but I love the excitement because clearly the book spoke to you, and I'm so happy
Yes,
because
it's so helpful. Yeah.
but what you're describing basically is are those SIMIs, the seemingly insignificant minor interactions, because oftentimes when people think of changing and how do they change, how do they become more secure, they think about the big things. I need to go and talk about my childhood. I need to unpack really difficult things that have happened to me. And rarely people think about the what I've come to call the seemingly insignificant minor interactions, or in short, SIMIs, as a vehicle for change. But when you understand the brain from a neuroscience perspective, you understand that each and every one of those SIMIs are a vehicle for change to help people become more secure, to actually change your brain's wiring towards becoming more secure. Because like each and every interaction like that is very meaningful for the brain because our brain constantly scans for connectedness, and it's very aversive to it when we get that disconnect. Even if we say hello to someone and they kind of like don't respond to us, it
Yep.
actually injures our brain. But when we get that connectedness, the way that you described it is amazing. It's because like you can do your own thing, but everybody has their different set point of when they need that check-in, which is just like the way that the kid looks to see if the mom is there. We are doing the same thing with those SIMIs. And if you get those secure SIMIs, you're set. Your husband gets his freedom, and you get your freedom. That's what we want, really, for like be able to sort of have the peace of mind to explore.
Yes. And he gets his and this is great
Being
for giving language of, oh, I That was great. We had a wonderful weekend with you. I need like 6 hours to just go be by myself without needing to explain it or for me to take it personally. Um, no, it's so helpful. And then I think your point too, and in the book, the way that it's like, let you go and you plot your different relationships and you can have sort of a different dynamic amongst different primary characters in your life and then start to recognize I can only manage as an anxious person, however many anxious attachments. And I need to sort of turn the volume down on those. So let's talk about the SIMIs. I think is such a good example of just like, it's not that deep. It's not that much work to sort of like do this baseline hygiene when you're dealing with someone who's maybe your significant other or your primary coworker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like
easy
it's
to sort
everywhere.
of,
It's not just
yeah,
our like that's sort of the whole thing about this new book is that the new research really shows that attachment comes into play everywhere with our
yeah,
friends, with our coworkers, with our kids. It's really everywhere. And those semis, by the way, that really invite you for a moment. So part of the research really shows that hyper connected state, which is kind of like what I came to understand is so beneficial to the brain. I came to understand it from, first of all, from the negative. There's something that's called the cyberball effect that I
yeah,
call it in the book. And I think the first chapter is about that because I really want to tell people, you have to understand our brain loathes exclusion. And in the cyberball experiment, you play catch. It's a little video game, really like a two-dimensional video game, and you play catch with two other participants, imaginary participants, and all of a sudden they stop throwing the ball in your directions, and lo and behold, like areas of like stress and self-scrutiny and like horrible distress and painful distress sort of come online in the brain. And nothing mitigates it. If you give money to people to say, okay, whenever the ball is not thrown in your direction, we're going to give you a little bit of money. No, it didn't help. Even when they told people that the other two players are despicable people, they told minority students that the other two players were members of the KKK. Still, they had this like really aversive reaction. Also psychologically, it makes people have low self-esteem, feel that life is less meaningful, and have a less sense of control over their lives. Things that you would think are have no connection to these little moments of exclusion with other people. I mean, my self-esteem, why should I care if someone didn't throw the ball in my direction or didn't say hello to me or how much control I have over my life or how much meaning I assign to life? All these deep psychological things that we assign to the self is actually related to how connected we feel to the world.
yeah,
So if we understand that, and then we understand that the opposite, like what I've come to call hyperconnectedness, which is the reverse cyberball. You're now standing in the middle and you're throwing the ball to one person, they throw it to you. You turn to the one next there, you throw the ball to them, they throw it to you. And the opposite happens. All the benefits, exactly the opposite. You feel more self esteem, you feel more that you're in control of your life, that life is more meaningful. So in this book, I really try to create how do I create a hyper-connected state where we can engulf our brain and our lives in this very nourishing environment that can help us change. So that was the beginning premise and everything. And then every attachment styles get their own tools of how to get there.
yeah. Um, so let's talk about the cycling that happens with the anxious
That's very
because
important.
this is so important, sort of this gaslighting and the other backlash cycle, I think.
Yeah, the protest regret. Yes,
Yes. Oh
yes,
my
the protest.
God. Okay. Take us through them because I think there are going to be people nodding along and feeling very seen.
So I think what happens when you're anxious, again, you have that very sensitive radar. Um, and I mean, with all of the benefits, it's sometimes really hard to be anxious because you see things that other people don't see. And I like that whole, how like, those, um, like movies of people like with superpowers, how initially like many things go rogue and don't go wrong because they don't know how to like control their
Their
powers.
power.
So that's how I think about people with anxious attachment style. If you don't know how to control your power, it can really, many things can go wrong in your life. And one of the things that go wrong is that you see threat and you respond to it, and and you don't know how to sort of channel. You create an environment that's unsafe for you, that's not suitable for your, like you said, like your orchid brain, uh, to that particular ability, and you suffer in it. And so the attachment gaslighting, it's basically what allows you to create that environment. Like, so let's say you're in a work situation where you constantly are not invited, or where there's a lot of like insecure interactions going on, and you notice everything. You just see everything and you suffer. So maybe that's not the ideal workplace for you, but our culture doesn't recognize that so much. So instead, people find themselves either externally or internally gaslighting. Internally will be like, I'm too sensitive, I shouldn't let it get to me. Well, I mean, guess what? How I can't shut my ears, I can't stop hearing. I can't like, I mean, it's like, it's hard to, how do you turn off your senses, your ability to sense the world? We can't. So you actually, by doing this um, what was I going to say? By engaging in this self-attachment gaslighting, you're missing an opportunity to try to create the environment that's right for you. And you're really cutting at your powers by saying, oh, I shouldn't respond to it, I shouldn't respond to it, instead of like saying, well, I like the way that you mentioned it when you were working in a corporate environment. It was challenging because you had all these powers and sometimes it hit a wall. Whereas I think where now, when it's more about connecting with people in a way that's different, you can use it to the full. So that's a good example, I think, of
Yeah,
how changing your setup can really change
really
and
change.
let
Yeah.
your powers shine.
Yeah. I think too, I think for someone who's wired like me or maybe like you, I find working on my own to feel more secure because I have
Yeah.
fewer people to emotionally manage and modulate. And I'm not having to read as many interactions to understand what's happening and who is safe and who is not. Um,
Although
and
you
that
clearly can do it and you've done it very well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I recognize that about myself. I would not have assigned it to being an anxious attachment person. I would have been like, oh, I just am highly intuitive. But I think that the two obviously are correlated.
Yes.
And, um, but that and I have enough experience now, in my 46th or 47th year, whatever age I am now, where people don't gaslight me as much, right? They're more inclined to be like, oh, if you're feeling that, it's likely real. So my husband, I manage my own catastrophizing, but my husband doesn't gaslight me, um, but he doesn't catastrophize with me either.
Right.
But
No, so
that helps, you know?
that helps a lot. So
Yeah.
part of what I'm trying to, so hold on a second. Part of what I try to do in this book is to teach people how to create their secure village. And it sounds like your husband, to a, to a very big degree, is your secure village. And you don't want them to catastrophize with you. If anything, you want them to do this kind of secure priming that will actually give you a secure viewpoint of things. But that's very, very different from gaslighting. So the gaslighting would be like, oh, you're too sensitive, like you're reading too much into it. But the secure priming would be, you know, they did this you this time, but they really love you, and I'm sure they didn't even like think about it at the time that they did it. So they help you give you a secure perspective on things, and that's very, very different from gaslighting.
Yes. Or
So,
why don't you sleep on it? You know?
oh,
Yeah.
that's a great
Which
one too.
is for
You
me,
know
like,
that you're gonna feel better
yes,
later.
don't react in the
Yes.
moment. Like, take it, why don't you sleep? Like, go for a walk and then, like, yeah, which is very helpful. Because let's talk about the next cycle. It's so fun.
The
Um,
protest regret cycle, which what happens when you don't sleep on it.
when you
That's exactly
decide,
it.
yes, when you take action because you have such a strong intuitive or
And you feel like you have to react
feeling.
immediately. No, I have to say this. This is like, like it's almost like it kind of like wants to just like comes flying out.
Yes.
And I talked to someone about this, like she is a psychologist, and she said, yes, this protest regret cycle happens to me all the time with my, like she has like adult kids. Like I always like you always like she gets upset that they don't call her enough, that they don't like listen to her when she calls them, like they get off the phone quickly, and then she lashes out at them, and then she really says like really mean things. It's like you don't care about me, you don't love me, you only come here when you want to do the laundry, take your own laundry and take it home, like really kind of like have, which is called protest behavior. And that's very important attachment lingo. Protest behavior is any behavior that you engage in to try to increase the availability of the other person. Because remember, I told you we scan for the availability, and when we feel that they're not available, like if there's kind of danger that happens, then it gets activated. But even if they're not available because they disappear on us or don't text us, that can trigger protest. And protest, it triggers an activating thing that you start thinking about, and then protest behavior. Protest behavior is any behavior to try to get the other person to engage with you, and it can be very bad behavior. The brain doesn't care.
Yeah.
It can be really mean and horrible, but it doesn't care because it's about safety, and it's more about the feeling is if you're not available to me, life is dangerous, and we can talk where that comes from, but then you protest, which can be really ugly. So she yells at them, don't bring your laundry here, don't come here, and then hangs up the phone. And then for a while, you can stew on it even more. I don't know, for an hour or two, or a day or two. But then eventually, what happens? The regret sets in because, especially people with anxious attachment, they have a very sticky attachment, and it's not that easy for them to let go of people, which can be both good and bad. But once they engage in that protest, then once it comes down, the attachment um, needs come rushing back in and like, oh my God, what have I done? I've really, really sort of like brought myself into a really bad place with this person. And then you kind of like engage in that attachment gaslighting. It's all my fault. I was too sensitive. I shouldn't have done that. It was like not a good response. All the while forgetting that there was a reason why it wasn't out of nowhere that you lashed out. There was a reason they were not consistent, available, responsive, which is kind of like the hallmark of secure attachment. They weren't. So there's a reason why I did that, but that now goes away. You don't even think about that anymore. So you have to apologize. And because you really upset them, now the whole conversation is about how bad you were, your behavior was, how like all the bad things you said. But the original reason why you lashed out to begin with hardly ever comes up. And so then you go back
Perpetuate a
into the
bad cycle.
relationship,
Yeah.
but then eventually again it will come up because you haven't resolved anything. So that's why it's kind of like the protest regret cycle. And it's especially with people who are not secure, they instigate because they're not being what I call carp, they instigate that activating strategies and protest behavior, and then you go off to the races.
Yeah. I want to talk about CARP before we get to that because it's obviously massive. Um, for people who are listening in this protest regret cycle, it can also be, I mean, obviously you want to keep your children close, like you want to manage through that interaction in a more skillful way and so that in the process you can be like, I need a little bit more from you to not fly off the handle. Um, but
I have an
yeah,
example for that.
okay. Do you
Should
want
I
to do
tell you?
that? Yeah, tell me
No,
the
you can.
example.
Yeah, yeah. So the same situation, mother of high school college kids, and also she noticed that when she calls them, they kind of like, oh, I don't have time for you. And then so what they did was because again, you remember how we said that attachment is simple. It's in those SIMIs. They set up all of their exercise apps to synchronize, so they all see what each other is doing. So whenever she sees that they go on a walk, she gives them a thumbs up. They give her a thumbs up after, I don't know, a Pilates class. They are so in a way, people always talk about how technology makes us disconnected, but technology is what we make of it. And she found a very shrewd way to make them feel more connected. And sort of, so there's a little bit of a back and forth synchronicity that allows them to feel more secure. And then she actually did say that she knows when they're driving back from, like when they're driving somewhere or when they have time. That's when usually when they call her. And she said, "Yeah, I know I'm a wuss, but I love my children." So she made sure that those times she'll be available to answer their calls.
Yeah.
So you find
No,
ways.
you find ways, and it's like a skillful management.
It's a secure way of
Yeah.
managing it.
And then for those who are listening, and we all have a lot of, we'll call them relationships that are highly optional, right? Whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship where you're not legally signing any documents, where if you get into the wrong dynamic with someone who leaves you feeling highly insecure, your point is like you want to minimize the amount of insecure attachments that you have so that you
Yes.
are maintaining good ground for your orchid nature, right? And that there are ways to not trigger the protest regret, which happens when you're like, I've had it, you're dumped, go F yourself. And then you're like, what have I done? You know, we've all been in those cycles. So can you talk about turning down the volume? That was
Yeah,
so
because I
helpful.
mean, so maybe first, the stakes are so high. People don't, it's like, so when you have all these superpowers and you're like the volume is up and you get triggered all the time, it not only is bad for your relationships, there's really all these studies that shows that it's bad for your health. It increases inflammation. It's like it really, there's this one study now that shows that it actually decreases longevity. It makes you age faster. It's kind of crazy. And then the way to change is to actually create this hyper-connected world around you. So you want to immerse yourself in an enriched social, secure social environment. So how do you do that? So the way that you do it, you have to sort of first learn about the five pillars of a secure life, which is you want people to be, you want yourself to be, and other people to be consistent, available, responsive, reliable, and predictable. It's not,
So
it's
that's
just like
carp.
really, yeah, that's
Yeah.
carp. So you have to kind of like, I actually have like on my website, you can go and you can download a little cheat sheet with carp and SIMIs on it because I really wanted it to be available to people so they can use it and they can sort of keep it as a reference card, basically. So you want people to be consistent, available, and responsive. And then um, you monitor for that. So now you know. So it's not because oftentimes that triggers you. And then when that happens, you don't want to. Um, Let me think how do I. Maybe I went too much around it. Maybe I should just like without explaining about carp, really explain how you can actually. And then we can go back to that later. I don't know.
Sure.
I can. I
Either
can.
way. Yeah, I'm tracking.
Okay. Okay. Good. So. Um, I guess you want to create this this enriched social environment for yourself, and the way to do it is really to all really it asks for is to make a shift in your attention because usually what happens when we get triggered like that, we get consumed with those insecure relationships, and yet at the same time, often we most of us, the vast majority of us, have these secure relationships in our lives, these secure people in our lives that we barely pay any attention to because they're boring. They always text when we text them, they're always there for us, there's just no drama. So our brain naturally gravitates towards that drama, trying to fix it. And part of the whole anxious thing is that we get preoccupied with it and it's hard to let it go. So part of the idea in this therapy, or in like, and also what I talk about in these tools, is like you you really have to make a list of the people who are secure in your life. And I call you instead of like, why haven't you texted me? What's going on? Of engaging in protest behavior, shift and think about, okay, this person, let me text them instead. And then over time, to really deprioritize those insecure relationships and prioritize those secure relationships that we don't really pay enough attention to. It's like we have this amazing resource available to us and we don't use it enough. And the whole idea in this book is to teach you to shift and actually make use of that resource and
Yeah.
create your secure village, basically.
And I think When I was reading about the protest response over my life, there have been relationships that I've needed to let go of. And we don't really talk culturally about things like friendship divorce or when you're like, I can't be at this work relationship or whatever it is. And, but historically, I've been triggered by that protest. And it's I do it very gently, but I feel so bad, right? Like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't let this relationship go. And so it consumes a lot of energy. And so just this idea too of like, no, you can turn the volume down on these relationships by only responding when they reach out, not initiating. And so you're not triggering your own anxious attachment style,
Exactly.
but you're
So
minimizing them until you're
exactly.
like
So
in the Christmas
yeah.
card territory.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so the tool that you're
Yeah.
describing in the chapter for the anxious, I call it wall tennis with love.
Wall tennis with love. Yeah.
So the idea is, I don't know if you've ever played tennis against the wall,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like
Of course.
whatever you dish the wall, it sort of gives back in just in a little bit less sort of like it's like it can't really dish you, it can't really start a serve or anything like that. It returns whatever you dish it. So the idea is that you're the wall, and in these insecure relationships, once you've determined that you need to put the volume down, it's basically how do you do it in a way that doesn't trigger your attachment. Because if you'll try to cut off if you'll try to cut just to completely cut down the ties, usually that actually then there's an attachment backlash, and you
Yes.
get into that protest regret again. So the wall tennis with love allows you to take the volume down. So when they reach out to you, and it has to be with love, because you don't want to trigger the relationship. When they reach out to you, you like respond very warmly. You inquire, but you don't initiate too much. It's kind of like an art to learn how to do that. And I actually discovered myself in my own life. I thought that it's a way to make the relationships go away, but in some instances, they did really recede into the background and became like sort of like the Christmas card territory. But in other instances, it actually created a new type of relationships that I have with people that we do communicate from time to time, but it's on their dime and their terms. But I don't have the expectation anymore, so it doesn't trigger me. I never really think about. I will never initiate because I decided it's wall tennis with love. And you can see sometimes you'll see the text. Sometimes this particular person that I think about like sends me, is a friend of mine. He sends hi, and I immediately respond hi as soon as I can. And then nothing for days, and then another hi, and then I say another hi, and then all of a sudden he calls and I answer, and I talk to them very warmly and ask about their family and this and that, the other thing. But I will never call, and I will never like tell like if I'm in trouble, if I need help to de-escalate an insecure relationship. I have my secure people to call. I will not call this person because they're not going to help me. And if anything, sometimes they'll either not listen or get tired of listening to me or abruptly get off the phone. And then all of a sudden, that what happens when we talk about the avoidance, I get even more upset because
Yeah.
they've sort of cut me off abruptly.
Yeah. Um, no, it's so helpful. It was just like, oh, now I understand that that feeling of regret, remorse, oh, I was too hard on them. Oh, I'm being mean or unfair when that gets triggered by me,
Yeah,
that it's like, oh, this is actually like a dynamic of relationship
the regret.
attachment. I'm
Yeah.
wired for this and I can actually manage it and sort of go through relationship withdrawal without experiencing intense cravings. Um,
Exactly. That's
yeah,
exactly it. It's kind of like a way to bypass
yeah.
that thing. Kind of like, okay, I'm
Skip
like
the
just gonna
drama. Yeah,
completely.
yeah. The okay, so and then in the avoidant chapter, this section just made me delighted and laugh because it's such a I mean, I experience it all the time and I have friends who are highly avoidant who I love. Um, and it's that like how do being a cat around these people a little bit while
Yeah.
recognizing like they just don't My husband, not to pick on him, but he doesn't really listen to the podcast. But if he listens to this, he'll be like, oh, I need to just practice my carp and do my SIMIs, and we're golden. But he's funny because he would never occur to him to that he's sort of like doing this avoidance style. But when he wants something and someone doesn't immediately respond to him, he gets
You can.
very like, what? And I'm like, that's funny. I sent you something like 4 days ago and I don't think you've read it. But that avoidant deep need for space, and but then the way that they get triggered, right? So can you talk a little bit about their attachment
Yeah, yeah. So
wound or tendency?
I have to say, I really try to make amends to the avoidance in this world, in this book, and not even just make amends, like give them tools they can use rather than go and tell them, because a lot of the time in like you see a lot on social media, and there's also in general, I told you, I think there's some bias, even in the research questions about the origin of these attachment styles, which is really unproven territory. And in psychology, we've played the blame game so much and sort of attributed things to childhood in a way that's not really supported by research completely.
Yeah.
So the idea for avoidance is that you had like a lack of closeness in upbringing, your needs weren't met enough, so you learned to fend for yourself. And that's why you are the way you are, and that you need to heal somehow from it in order to sort of be able to be more open and closer to others. But when you look at biology, you see actually really you can just look. I see it everywhere now because once you like your eyes are open, you can't not see it. There's a preference from distance and closeness. Again, because we talk about there's a need for variability within the population. Everywhere we look, some dogs, for example, my dog, he doesn't like too much closeness. He's over there, he'll still be close, but not like sitting in my lap, not sitting close to me from afar. He'll be there, but from afar. Uh, Other dogs, like my nephew has a dog, she constantly, like, she's on your neck the whole day. Like, she needs to be super close. And some cats actually also love closeness, and some cats, like, if you'll try to pet them, they'll claw at you. So that preference for distance and closeness is everywhere in nature. And why wouldn't it be in humans too? I think I gave an example, even like how in C. elegans in the book, how you like there's that preference of closeness and distance. And it's all very biological. But at the end of the day, I really thought it would be important for people to understand we have this preference for closeness and distance, and some people just like prefer more distance. But and then they build a whole psychology around it. Um, so that's where the three pitfalls that avoidants often fall into because they don't understand. Avoidants are about 20-25% of the population. They don't understand, like, it's not that they don't understand, they never really need to stop thinking about the fact that the rest of the world doesn't process things the way that they process things. So the first pitfall, I think we said, is like heal thyself. I call it heal thyself, because usually avoidants, when they're having trouble, they take care of their own issues. They don't come to you to talk to you about, like my partner who's secure and avoidant. There's avoidant, like things happen to him at work. He doesn't come to talk to me about this trouble. Like very rarely he would come. Most of the time, no, I need to solve it myself.
You're like, I'm a therapist. Bring it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. It's like I need to solve it myself. It's like no, I don't need to talk about this. Well, I have this like very over. I think the vast majority, the vast majority of the population has that need to talk about things and regulate, co-regulate, but they don't. They oftentimes, most of the time, regulate them on their own. So the idea that someone will come to them for help is just very foreign to them because, like, look, I don't do that. Why are you coming to me now? And so what happens is, unbeknownst to them, think about what happens when we go and we're in trouble, help us, and the other person is blowing you off. That elicits the protest regret cycle.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you forget about the bad things happen to you and you're like, whoa, this person is not available to me. Then it becomes all about that now. And then you lash out and then you start to really argue with them and they've added insult to injury. And they are clueless that they've done that. And so much of my therapy, when I teach this to patients, it's like a revelation for avoidance. It's like maybe it is you need to learn, you need to understand that yours is a minority response and the rest of the world doesn't operate like you. So you need to find a way to extend of yourself a little bit in a moment like that, because otherwise it'll pay off for you. If you
Yes.
want your distance and your quiet time, you need to act now before it gets like much, much worse. And I like to give that analogy. It's like you don't wait for a child to be super hungry to feed them, or you don't wait until they're super tired to put them to sleep. So the same thing here. You need to take care of this need early on when it's still small
Yes.
before it explodes into something huge that you become the center of it.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of heal, I heal
Small
myself. Why can't you?
preventative care. And
Entirely.
yeah.
In,
No, and when we were seeing Tatkin, he was like, "You can stay up until like whatever hour you want, but you're going to go to bed with your wife and like tickle her back or whatever until she falls asleep. And then you can get up and go do whatever you want, but you can't just like parallel play through life and expect not to have issues."
yeah,
Yeah. It's funny though
yeah.
because yeah, there are times when I'm like, we
It's to
either have like
find.
the best marriage or there's something wrong, but I don't think there's anything wrong, you know?
So no, no. So that's I always that goes back to I think that's in chapter 13. I talk about the pitfalls that prevents us from getting into a secure mindset. So I leave all the tools and I talk about the mind and how to secure a mind. And one of the pitfalls is telling people that life is always a mixed bag, especially relationships, and having this idea, and you can't really uh, throw the baby with the bathwater, thinking about imagine an idealized life and then feeling more like really bad about the life that you have here, especially if there's a lot of like things like the way that I'm hearing from you, like so many good things. So no, there's always when we meet another person, there's always going to be they like things this way and I like things that way. But one of the things that I really teach, and it's in the latter part of the book, I call it the hidden sparks of talent. It's to learn to identify both within yourself and in others the hidden sparks of talent, because if you understand biology, we are so enormously diverse molecularly. We are made of all the. It's like a kaleidoscope. It's like such a. Each and of is like our own unique version, and what it does, it really translates to very unique talents that we all, each and everyone have, that we all possess. Sometimes people can turn their tongue in a certain way, or they can move like. We all have these little things from starting as little as that to like bigger things that we have. And what I find to be really helping people move towards security is to start looking at the hidden sparks of talents in their partners and also in themselves. And oftentimes, when we come from a place of insecurity, the things that we think are the biggest impediments are actually hidden sparks of talent.
Yes.
And it's such a helpful shift to think about it from that perspective.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I love this book. I'm so excited for it to be in the world. And it's very loving and not not criticizing. It is this like there's a lot of beauty in the way that each of us manages. So if we can understand that better, we can manage ourselves and each other better. Know the animals we're with. It's really what it comes
Exactly.
down to. Yeah.
And know the animal that you are.
Yeah. So I think it's a really, really helpful tool.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It was such a fun conversation.
This
I
is
really
so
enjoyed it.
fun. Great. All right. Well, if there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. I'm excited to
And
watch this come into the
if you
world.
need I did take a recording of it. So if you need it, I can send it to you.
Ooh.
Um,
I think you sound good, but
okay.
maybe let me ask my
Yeah.
producer if he wants it.
Just know that it's there. So if you need
Okay,
it, I
thank
can send it
you.
to you.
So
Yeah.
prepared.
Where are
So
you? You're in
secure.
Cal.
I'm in
I
LA.
like this whole idea. I mean, that's why I try to keep the book very positive. Is
Yeah.
not that I don't even call it positive. That's I wanted to do secure priming even in the reading. It's more like think about the good experiences that have happened to you. Think about it's all part of the whole secure priming thing.
Yeah. No, it translates.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think uh, it doesn't require you to go and mine your childhood and wonder why what you didn't get or why is my brother so different and blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's
Oh, in
room for
fact,
all of
I
that,
think it's
but
supposed to be the difference. Like you have to actually maybe look for secure relationships in your past because they leave those secure kernels in you that you
yeah,
can actually use. It's really, I mean, it's really a different type of therapy. And
yeah,
I'm actually now working on a manual for therapists. So therapists can actually administer, and there's an accompanying patient book. So people can actually do that. I think it's really going to be good. I'm also going to do like a course for people in high school. I feel like people in
smart.
high school could really benefit from something like this.
No, I think it's really smart because I think it can save a lot of unnecessary heartache and or like, oh, there's a problem here versus there's a mismatch in attachment styles or
And
this
then also
person
to give
navigated
people
this.
this idea of like, wow, this person is not carp. Like, so it's not, I don't want to be his friend. I can find a different, and sort of trying, especially like in high school, to kind of like maneuver sort of like
Yeah,
the whole social scene in a way that's more secure. Yeah.
amazing. I can't wait for that. We'll come back when you have that. We'll talk about it.
So how often do you record?
I do one episode a week and then I do one solo episode a month.
Wow, that's very
Yeah,
cool.
it's fun.
Nice. Yeah,
Maybe you
and you
need a
live in LA,
podcast.
right?
I live in LA. Are you in New York?
Right now I'm actually in Miami Beach.
Oh,
Like for the
fun.
winter, yeah. But I'm coming to LA next week just for some yeah,
Pre-press
it's just like yeah,
podcast,
yeah. And I
in-person
did a
stuff.
master class thing, so
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Jerusalem. I'm
I
from
was gonna say,
Israel.
I was gonna ask you if you were Israeli.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, are you Israeli or are you like from Argentina?
No, right,
Um,
exactly. One of the two. Yeah, I'm from Israel originally, but I went to medical school there, and then I went to do my residency in at New York at Columbia, and then I just stayed there ever since.
yeah, until
Yeah.
you got to Miami.
Well, just
Um,
like for a few months in the winter because it's too much for me. You're so lucky because I think LA, the
LA is
weather
pretty
is
great.
amazing.
It's
And
pretty
then
great
when I was,
here. Lots of Jews, 17% of the population.
oh, really?
I didn't
Wow,
realize
more
it
than
was
New
that
York.
high. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I think in New York it's 10%.
Yeah, no, I think LA is the largest, it has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel, maybe, or something. There's something
Really? Wow.
staggering. It's very, my oldest goes to Milken, which is I think it's the largest non
Oh, I see your
Orthodox Jewish
cat
day
over
school.
there.
Oh, yeah, I have four cats, and they all have very different attachment styles.
Right? You see it everywhere. It's kind of
Yeah.
like striking.
Yeah. My
Wait,
one
so
cat. Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, just one of my cats is incredibly anxious and very attached to me, and she is like my shadow. I don't know where she is. She's normally in my lap, but ghosting me.
Interesting.
Now I'm gonna have to
Wait,
go and
so how long have you lived in LA?
um wow, 15 years.
From where are you originally?
I'm originally from Montana,
Oh,
and
wow.
then I went to boarding school and college on the East Coast, and then lived in New York for until 2011, and then moved to LA.
So
And I
much
can't.
better, right? I think I'm eventually may move to LA because also the trees when I was there, I love trees. I just
Yeah,
like the landscape. They're magnificent.
it
There's like
is
this
really
huge,
nice. Like the
yeah.
proximity to nature, the yeah, it feels like that much closer to Montana, which is probably my real spiritual home. And
And
no,
you
it's
weren't
good.
affected by the fires?
We were evacuated, but we are like we were one valley away from where it
Wow.
got very intense. So yeah, we
Wow.
were okay.
Thank God.
It's not
Mm.
good here though. I don't know why we're living here, but
Why? Because,
oh, just because of fires. Like it's just only time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, no.
Oh, I lost you for a second.
Oh, can
Oh,
you
there
hear
you
me
go.
now?
Yeah,
You
now I
know,
can hear
like
you.
I pushed the mute
The
button,
button.
so it's become worse. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Global
Okay. Well,
warming. All right. Well, if you need anything, if you need if you're like doing events out here and you're like, I need a conversation partner or whatever, you can always call
Oh,
me.
that's great. Yeah, you're a great
Yeah.
conversation partner. That's such a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. I'm
definitely.
here. Um,
Wait,
you
do I
sh-
have your email? I don't know if I have your email.
I'm Elise.Lunan. Yeah. I don't, I
Yes.
think Kiki set it up for me.
Yes.
Elise.Lunan at Gmail.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you an
No,
email.
but you should come like speak at, if you do like a school tour or whatever, introduce you to the people at Milken. I'm sure they would love to have you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Go talk to a
Thank
bunch
you.
of Jewish tweens and teens.
No, it's good. I want to,
Yeah.
especially now with everything that's happening, I
Yeah.
want to help the community, our
Yeah.
community. It's important to me.
Yeah. That would be
Yeah,
great. You should definitely do that. I feel like I've been meaning to reach out to them. Um, my agent is representing like a lot of the Jew, like a lot of the Israeli Jews, like Rachel
interesting.
Hirsch Goldberg, like all of those people too. And I'm like, there has to be. I know that they're being well supported by synagogues and whatnot, but it does feel like um, it's tough out there. So
Yeah, no,
the
I know.
more, yeah, that we can all support each other, sort of
Yeah,
in these communities.
I'll just tell you this quickly. I don't want to. I saw on TikTok, this woman went to like a small town in Hungary and she put like this like amazing synagogue that's been there for generations. And I got goosebumps because it just shows you like there are no Jews there. It's just like that beautiful,
Mm,
massive synagogue. But at some time, there was like at one point, there was like a thriving Jewish community there. And then gone. And then my sister lives in Toronto,
yeah.
and it's become so scary there. Like
Oh,
where she is, they were like shooting at synagogues. They're like there's and she a lot of Canadian Jews have left Toronto already because the whole political thing there is like they don't really do much about it. It's kind of like
that's my dad's an only child. He's a South African Jew. His cousin is in London, Ontario. I wonder. I should ask him
oh
if he's spoken to him lately.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I was just at the school at Milken, stayed at the school night, and this kid. Oh, it was so moving. Ukrainian kid, I think is a sophomore, and he got up to speak about his time at Milken, and he walked across, 5 countries or something
Wow,
to his uncle who had met once, who brought him to LA. His father died in the war, I think last year.
wow,
But he came to Milken and he was like, "That's the first time I ever experienced community." He didn't speak English, he didn't speak Hebrew, he had no connection to his Judaism. First kid in 5 generations. He just had his bar mitzvah.
wow.
Um, and now he's in like Beit Midrash, like he's in like honors 5 Hebrew, and I mean he was amazing. He was so
Yeah,
incredibly well spoken, and it was so I was like, this is so moving. Yeah.
nice, good.
Um, but yeah, and
Okay, so
maybe
go
I'm
ahead.
inspired now. I'm gonna reach out to the. Are you coming next week? How long are you coming back to LA at some point? Because maybe
I will come
there's
back. Yes, I
okay,
will definitely come back. So yeah, I'll be back. I think sometimes in May.
okay.
Sometime in May. Yeah. So
I'm gonna
yeah, yeah,
email them and just connect with them about like what would be good because I feel like they could do like they're I like they could do like a bulk buy, I'm sure, and you know what I mean, or like pay a fee or figure
oh yeah, no,
something
that
out.
would be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wow,
Or at
amazing.
least
Thanks
like
very
host.
much.
I don't know what their
Yeah,
programming is, but I'm like, let's
yeah,
maybe I can help them build it.
yeah. That's
Um,
fantastic.
we'll see.
And then by that time, I probably will have the sort of the manual for like high schoolers.
Yeah.
Um, I really have to work on that because I created a manual for therapists and patients, but I think it's so important for people in high school to know. It gives you a blueprint of how to manage social situations from a secure place.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
super cool. I love it. All right, this was so fun. Email me so I have your
I'll
info
email you.
and let's
Yes.
like be in touch and be friends.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Really
All
nice to meet
right.
you.
Bye. What a delightful person. He is delicious. I don't think he would mind me describing him in that way. I just wanted to double back on two of the big concepts in the book that I think are really important to understand, whether you identify as an avoidant or an anxious or secure or fearful avoidant, which I think is, and he writes a bit about this in the book. We didn't get to it really in the conversation. That's the trickiest. That's, I think, not to diagnose, but that's where you might already have been tuned for anxiety. And then maybe you grew up as the child of alcoholic parents and you are really become sort of fearful and avoidant. Um, so I think that's where a lot of our childhood trauma or patterning shows up when it gets into that territory. But I am not a physician. I don't know if you guys know that. Um, I wanted to just like reiterate what the CARP is, because this is what you want to sort of maintain as much as possible. And then also the SIMIs. These are big themes in the book and really important and easy to understand and action. Okay, so the 5 pillars of security. This is CARP, which stands for consistent, available, responsive, reliable, and predictable. So consistent, you keep the same level of involvement over time without fluctuations and keep that at the level at which you are able to commit, right? Available, you are there for the other person when they need you. Responsive, when the other person contacts you, you respond. Reliable, the other person feels they can count on you to be consistent, available, and responsive. Predictable, they can anticipate your actions, no negative surprises like ghosting or other erratic or abrupt behavior, and no still facing or cyberbullying. Still facing is when you sort of evince no response to what someone's saying to you. It's the still face experiment that you probably heard about, where the mom with the baby goes still face and stops responding, and how scary that is and disorienting. And then SIMIs, those are what he calls seemingly insignificant minor interactions of everyday life. And his point is like these are very small, attenuated ways of showing up for people with huge upside. So for him as a therapist, it's showing up for people on time. It's just small indications that their time matters, that you're paying attention, you're acknowledging them, you're not avoiding them, et cetera. These are not major things. This is sort of the small preventative hygiene that keeps relationships really, really functioning. It's keeping your word, right? It's like, oh, let me call you back. It's calling the person back or sending a text to say, hey, I got dragged into something. I'm going to try you tomorrow. Stuff like that. Those are SIMIs, but they really create sort of that secure base for other people. All right, friends, this was a fun one. I will see you next time.